Good evening, everyone. Christina, we're live, right?
We are now.
Good evening, everyone.
Oh, that's my YouTube. Oops, hold on.
Hi, Christina.
Hi.
How are you?
Good, hold on. Where am I? Good, I'm good. All right, as we wait for board members to log in, looks like staff is here.
Good afternoon, everybody.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Okay, there's 4 board members on. Let me text a few, but it is 5:01 if you would like to get started.
Great. All right. Good afternoon, everyone. It is August 6th, 2025. Welcome to tonight's Committee of a Whole for the Hartford Public School District. So great to see so many folks online. I feel like we've been apart for so long over the summer. So it's great to see everyone tonight. And a huge welcome to Dr. Townsell to your very first Committee of the Whole. We're glad you're here and excited you get to be a part of this. And welcome to all of our board members and staff and people watching us at home. We don't have a huge agenda tonight, so we'll go ahead and get started. And I believe I'm starting it by passing it off to Dr. Townsell.
Good evening, everybody. Can everyone hear me clearly? Yes, cool. Very excited. This is day 3 for me. Been around the district, meeting a lot of people in the community and inside the school district. Very, very encouraged about our future and the direction that we're going in. I did have an opportunity to preview our agenda today and preview some of the contracts. So I'm interested in learning as much as I can and hearing the dialogue. Wherever I can add value, I'll be there. Thank you so much, President or Chair.
Thanks, Dr. Townsell. I think I'm going to pass it off to Dr. Rowley.
Correct.
Yes, good evening, Chair Hockenhull, board leadership. Welcome, Dr. Townsell. We are so excited for you to be here. Tonight, we will present 2 of 3 contracts that were funded as a result of the additional city funds, Ready CT and CT Rise. The third partner and contract that will be forthcoming is with Our Piece of the Pie, or OPP, and we anticipate bringing that forward next month. Again, funded through that same funding stream with the additional city funds. As we begin to talk about this contract I'll start with Ready CT. And just to let everyone know, I am standing in for Assistant Superintendent Al Sacchi, but we have some other folks on the line. Executive Director of Ready CT, Shannon Merriman, should be joining us by phone, but not by face because she is in an airport right now. She did send 2 team members, and we're thrilled to have them here, Ms. Tammy Schweikert and Dan Williamson, who both serve as Career Pathway Directors. And last but not least, we have Assistant Principal Neil Sullivan from Great Path Academy. Next slide, please. Thank you. So tonight, what we'll do is provide an overview of Ready CT and pathway work, as well as a sample of impact from a sample of participating schools to outline some of the impact of that work with Ready CT. Obviously, we will also review the contract proposal and those totals. Next slide, please. Listed before you is the mission of Ready CT to advance academic excellence and career-connected learning for all public schools and students in the state of Connecticut. And Ready CT collaborates with business, civic, and education leaders. You could see listed below some of the more specific work around pathway development, providing work-based learning opportunities for our students, creating events for promising practices to share resources. And then also they advocate for policies that narrow Connecticut's achievement gap between low-income and non-low-income students. Finally, just this work raises the public profile around education and workforce. Next slide, please. Before you, you see our participating schools and the pathways that are at each school: Buckley High School, Hartford Public High, Weaver High, Great Path, and Pathways Academy. Also, you see those pathways in title before you, ranging anywhere from emerging technologies to engineering and green technology, insurance and finance, a general focus at Great Path Academy, and information technology. Next slide, please. This work is aligned to our strategic plan priorities, specifically as we think about our whole and healthy students component, expansive learning opportunity, and operational and management excellence, all 3. Next slide. At this point in time, I'll turn it over to Ms. Tammy Schweikert, who I mentioned before is with Ready CT as a career pathway director, who will just give a high-level overview of program features and impact of the work that we've outlined. Tammy?
Thanks. Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Again, I am Tammy Schweikert, and I am one of the Director of Career Pathways with Ready CT. And I'm just going to give you a quick overview with some details of the work. So the career pathways, which Dr. Ratley kindly described to you in the previous slide, basically allows us to work at the intersection of business and education, which is our favorite place to be. We try to build bridges between what businesses need for new employees and what schools can create to sustain and fill that need. And so we have industry advisory boards, which allow us to have industry-informed coursework in the schools that we work with. We work with partners on our industry advisory boards for dual enrollment opportunities, increasing every year. And then we work with employers to figure out what they really want new employees to have, what certifications are most important to them, and we try to provide those industry-recognized credentials to our students. And then, of course, we try to get as many students involved in our paid internship program as possible. Work-based learning is a structured continuum from awareness to preparation. What that might look like for a school. For example, Buckley High School has a public service pathway. In that pathway is a public safety component or prong, sort of one tier of it. And we may do a First Responder Friday event where we invite the police department, the fire department, the Capitol Police Department, maybe a security department representatives from the school system, and they'll set up an entire sort of career fair where the students will do one-on-one experiential work. So students might dust for fingerprints, they may get to try on the SWAT gear, they may go into the SWAT equipment, they may be able to put on all of the firefighting gear and actually use the fire hoses, work as a team with fire explorers, students who are already fire explorers. Those students may then sign up for additional services with Ready CT. They may complete our additional coursework. And then in the summer, they may want to apply for and be accepted to our First Responder Youth Academy program, which will give them 120 hours of intensive exploratory and preparation work. So that's one of the programs. And that's sort of how we work with work-based learning. We start with trying to reach as many students as possible and let them explore as many options as possible, and then fit them in where they feel most comfortable until they reach a point where they either know that's what they want to be doing and we can provide more resources, or switch to the other pathway where we can provide more exploratory programming for them. Some of our signature programs you may have heard of is the Youth Employability Skills, or what we call YES Academy. We run those programs during April vacation. Students choose to participate in YES Academy during their April vacation. We provide our career-connected curriculum. We do typically a full day of mock interviews with employer partners, and sometimes third-party certifications happen that week. We also run our Get Ready Intensive Traineeship and our First Responder Youth Academy. These are generally summer programs. First Responder Youth Academy, FRIA, as we like to call it, wrapped up last week in Hartford, and tomorrow is the last day of our GRIT programming happening this summer at Hartford Public High School and Pathways, where we've got about 120 or 130 students participating. And then we have the Student 5.0 program. Student 5.0 is a program that is focused on seniors who maybe don't have a solid plan for what's next. So our Student 5.0 team, we call them career launch coordinators, work in the school system with counselors, identifying those students, and then we work with those students, providing workshops. We do some exposure work with those students, and then we try to individually connect them, not necessarily in pathway work, but if a student maybe wants to be a carpenter, we may connect them with the Carpenters Union, try to get them associated third-party certifications for those programs and get them really ready to step into those jobs once they graduate. A quick look at 24-25 school year data. We had over 650 active Hartford Public School Pathway participants. This means that students signed up. You signed a student agreement with Ready CT, said, I want to participate more in depth with your programming. I want to attend your workshops. I want to complete a resume. I want to attend a mock interview and potentially participate in a paid internship. 884 students across the school system participated in at least one Career Connections curriculum lesson. Almost 1,700 students participated in at least one work-based learning activity. 66 students have already completed a paid internship, and another 173 are currently in the process of completing it. So well over 200 students will have participated in paid internships through Ready CT this school year. And another 142 students completed at least one industry recognized credential or certificate. And I know that number will be 40 higher because I know that I worked with 40 students and have not put them in our data system yet. So, but that's just a quick look at some of the work that we've been doing in the schools this year. Any questions?
Thank you, Tammy.
Sure.
Thank you. And now taking a look, if we could proceed to the next slide, please. And we will have time for questions, Tammy, just so you know. If you proceed to the next slide, we have, just to zero in on just a couple of participating schools, I'll give an overview of Weaver's impact data, and then Mr. Sullivan will talk about Great Path Academy's work. And so with Weaver, the graduation rate of pathway participants was significantly higher, rounding out at up to 100% of them, and then 98% of our work-based learning participants graduated as well. When we look at academic performance among participating students, those pathway students, a median GPA was noted at 2.83, and nearly a quarter of participants had a GPA at 3.5 or above. Ready CT did conduct an analysis and found a strong correlation between pathway or this work, all the programming participation, and student graduation rates, as well as grade point averages. That's for Weaver. We'll now turn our attention to Great Path Academy, where Mr. Sullivan will give a quick overview of the work and impact there.
Good evening, board. My name is Neil Sullivan. I am the proud assistant principal at Great Path Academy. And we actually had a wonderful opportunity today to be at Pathways Academy, where Ready CT launched a grit showcase. And that immersive training, we had about 6 of our students, families, Ready CT representatives, and many corporate sponsors, including Hartford Healthcare, Hispanic Health Council, Travelers Insurance, the Hartford CBIA, Hartford Symphony Orchestra. And today was the opportunity for students who have been working collaboratively in groups with work-based learning to come with the research that they have done, and really to clarify and to contextualize some issues that they found within their organization to better improve systems, policies, etc. It really lines up exactly with the work Ready CT does. Great Path Academy, we are housed on CT State Manchester's campus, and our middle high school experience affords students starting their sophomore year to take dual enrollment courses, potentially to graduate with associate's degrees along with a high school diploma. And that partnership and that access to the college experience on campus really dovetails well with Ready CT. Ready CT offers us with a Ready CT person in-house. Her office, Dr. Kate, huge shout out. She's done tremendous work with our students over the past few years. She allows them to have job shadowing opportunities, to get into partnerships through the workforce, paid internships this summer. What they do, from resume building to mock interviews to lecture series, what they've done in our school has really elevated our students' access to that CCR continuum, which is what we essentially are, and that is our mission statement. We can go on to the next slide, please. This year, Ready CT will continue to provide GPA with a dedicated career pathway program. We will have a new manager this year, but the design and delivery of work-based learning is central to the work that we do. As I noted earlier, paid internship, recruitment, students and employers, preparation, placement. And the biggest piece is ongoing monitoring. That familial connection, the weekend, the evening events, the touch base with students while they're at Great Path, being on campus is a huge bonus for us. Constantly monitoring their work that they're doing within our school and outside. Since 2024, 90% of the students who have been involved with Ready CT, have gained or earned paid summer internships and career opportunities. Almost 90% of our 11th and 12th graders are engaged in college and CCR course taking those dual enrollment courses in 23-24. Our goal is to really build that strong correlation between college and career readiness, work-based learning. So when our students do graduate, they have those direct pathways to enter the workplace or to continue what they have been engaged with through Ready CT at a community college or four-year college. Our four-year cohort graduation rate was 94% in 2024, and we're very proud of that.
Finally, just a snapshot view of the contract that we'll be proposing. Acceptance of these funds and your approval of this contract would allow us to continue to work with the 3 comprehensive pathways, the 3 comprehensive schools and Pathways Academy in partnership with Ready CT. We did fold in Great Path Academy, as you heard from Mr. Sullivan. There's been some work happening there. I do want to clarify that the funding for Great Path Academy is separate from the funding from the other 4 schools I just mentioned. Great Path Academy has set aside in their budget the $82,000 that you see there in italics, and then they are awaiting an update on a state-supported grant, which is the Magnet Academics Social Support Grant, in the amount of $58,800 in order to complete and round out the funding for their support with Ready CT. Obviously, because all of this work is under the umbrella of Ready CT, we wanted to go ahead and bring that forward to you now. Great Path Academy has been in conversation and working with our team members from the Magnet office, Executive Director Sherry Davis Googe and her team to apply for that grant, and they are expecting to hear about it on August the 11th. So I just wanted to be clear about the delineation in terms of funding for Great Path Academy versus the other 4 schools that are already in partnership with Ready CT as well. Obviously, the contract term would run through the end of this school year, June 30th to 2026. At this time, we'll pause for any questions.
Thanks, Dr. Ratley, and thanks for the presentation, everyone. Any questions from board members? Seeing none, I would just love to throw out there that I am so grateful for what you all do through Ready CT. I have the honor of actually volunteering at Weaver High School with a couple of the things there that you do, and so I've been able to see it firsthand, and I'm really impressed with all the work that's being done. So thank you so much for what you're doing. Ms. Brody.
Thank you for that presentation. My question is, as probably my question always is, because this is costing us money. So at the school level, what is being done about making, like, our staff should have, through this work, developing relationships with the same folks like we're partnering with or we're doing the internships with? What work is being done with school leaders so they can own this work on their own, and they have the connections to make the connections to the students, to the business, from the students to the businesses, to all of that. So when we're spending money on something, I automatically think, how could we not spend money? The funding could go somewhere else if we're equipping our staff and letting them own this work. So could we talk a little about how we're equipping our own staff and making them familiar with these connections so they could be the owners of it?
Yes, board chair, may I? Yes, okay. All right, so yes, thank you, board member Brody, for the question. Initially, what comes to mind is structurally how things are set up. And so when we think about the pathways, we also have these boards that are essentially a part of the school community. So a number of those partners sit with, collaborate with, and make plans with those school teams directly through that operating board at each of those schools to figure out not only how to provide some of these services directly to students, but then also what schools may need in order to build capacity around staff being able to ultimately make those direct connections themselves. Another way that work and that sustainability sort of plan that you're referencing is approached is when Ready CT organizes events or what have you, that is done hand in hand with the school staff. So it's not done separately from. So staff is able to not only see, embrace, and begin to own those steps and outreach in terms of making really positive experiences for our students, but they're also able to leverage that expertise as we work toward that sustainability plan where we could actually have school leaders and school teams foster those relationships and make those opportunities available to students on their own.
Thank you. I really hope we're pushing on that so the school could own it. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Ms. Darcel-Ledger.
Thank you so much. And thank you for the presentation as well. One question I have is with regards to these trainings that these students will be receiving, is there a financial literacy component or is that something separate? Because what I'm thinking about is, you know, for some of the students who decide that they want to go immediately into the workforce and perhaps start their own businesses, what are we doing to make sure that they have a good head start with regards to that financial literacy piece?
And
can
through the
answer
chair,
that.
I'd like to tap in Ms. Schweikert to give
Yes.
some detail on that. Thank you.
So we do have a financial literacy career connected curriculum programming. We've also had a lot of discussion about it this year in terms of emphasizing that and maybe adding a few more components to our financial literacy training. We all of our training is optional for students. They have to opt into it, but there are some components that every single student should probably have. And sometimes we can partner with teachers in the school system to run workshops with like every student in the math class in this week. And so we have done that at Buckley a couple of times with some of their programming. And I do think that working our students through the hiring process and all of the hiring documentation has shown us how much more work we can do with those students for next year and how we can increase, I think, this is my opinion, increase their capacity way before they get to paid internships. And probably with the 10th and 11th graders as they're just getting ready to dive a little deeper into the programming. So our career connected curriculum, although we have 10 lessons and the additional financial literacy component to it, we're changing them all the time as we find things that we needed to add into them. Like we're looking at adding an AI component to our training this year. So how do we build capacity for all of the students so that their skill sets are staying current with what's needed in the workplace? So certainly we do offer it, but we're always looking at improving it. And we do partner with schools a lot on some of those program pieces.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Great, thank you. Seeing no more hands, thank you for the presentation. And Dr. Ratley, back to you for the next contract.
Yes, thank you, Board Chair. I will now tag in Dr. Aria Coburn, who is one of our Executive Directors of Instruction, who will lead and facilitate the presentation regarding CT Rise. Dr. Coburn?
Yes, good evening. I'm in my car and I'm transitioning, so pardon my back view. I am the Executive Director of Instruction and Student Support, and so I have the pleasure of supporting post-secondary success. Tonight for our presentation, Liliana, the Director of Post-Secondary Success, and Sam, our partner for CT Rise, is going to give some context and an overview of where we are with the data performance metrics. And also Sam is going to give an overview of key points and forward thinking of where this work lives for the upcoming year, pending contract approval. And so I'm going to turn it over to Liliana to give some context setting about where we've been.
Good evening, board members, Superintendent Townsell, district leaders, and thank you, Dr. Coburn, for the introduction. I appreciate the opportunity to present the key updates and outcomes for our ongoing partnership with the Connecticut Rise Network. This collaboration continues to yield a strong results in both our academic performance and post-secondary outcome for our students. As you see before we discuss the details of our contract, it's important to anchor this work in our district strategic priorities. Hartford Public School remains committed to advancing equity, access, and outcome for all of our students. This includes increasing on-track rates for first-time ninth graders, improving post-secondary access and success, and using data to drive continuous improvement across all of our schools. Next slide, please. The mission of the Connecticut Rise Network is to ensure that all students graduate with a plan and the skills and confidence to achieve a college and career opportunity. Our partnership with Rise is central to building capacity among our ninth grade leaders and educators, leveraging our data-informed collaboration to drive our students' success. Also, Rise supports these goals through our monthly strategic coaching, our professional learnings, and access to essential data tools both within our freshman academies and throughout our comprehensive high schools. Over the past years, I do want to share that our partnership has expanded, and this contract reflects our shared commitment to increase our focus and support for our schools. As a result, our efforts, we have seen measurable improvements in key indicators, including a reduction in our 9th grade chronic absenteeism, an increase in on-track rates, and a rise in our numbers for our graduations with our documented post-secondary plan. It's also important to note that RISE has secured external funding to cover 40% of the total cost of the services, which reduces the district financial contribution while maintaining a high level of support. Next slide, please. At this point, I would like to turn the presentation over to Mr. Sam Purdy, our Director of Engagement, who will provide additional insights regarding the services, goals, and anticipated outcomes for the upcoming year. Mr. Sam Purdy?
Thank you so much, Liliana, and good evening, everyone. It's good to see a lot of familiar faces from the board. RISE has been longstanding partners of the district, as well as, of course, many staff at the district that we've worked with. And as well, your face, Dr. Townsell. We're excited to get to, hopefully partner with you and certainly extend a welcome here to you. So thank you for the introduction, Liliana. I'm pleased to bring some, positive data that I would emphasize is from the work of the schools of the district. We have take pride in our support of the schools to achieve these results, take pride in the data visibility that is enabled on a daily basis through the RISE Data Hub that folks are able to access through this partnership. But I want to be clear, we're presenting Buckley's data, Hartford High's data, Kinsella's and Weaver's, and we're proud of it, but this is not RISE's data, this is yours. To that end, we also do take ownership of the areas where there's continued growth. So we are thrilled by every school improving in their chronic absenteeism over the lifetime of this partnership. And we are motivated by the gaps that exist here and the gaps in the growth or, the improvement that we'll also see in the next slide in a moment. You don't have to turn just yet. We are really, excited by the gains that these 4 schools that we work with, the comprehensive high schools and Kinsella, have made through a range of strategies, some of which I can, speak to at more length as we entertain questions if interested. But particular improvement among the comprehensives at Buckley High School, where some of you have had the chance to learn about the family focused student conferences that the Buckley School has, really modeled, and actually through our cross-district partnership, really helped to speak about on a regional level to help others become aware of the power of this. I know that district offices came in to Buckley High School to sit with families, to extend supports that address some of the root causes of absenteeism, such as housing and food insecurity, employment, transportation. And it's been a really inspiring thing to see some of the data, which obviously is not the only contributor to some of these improvements, but just one thing to name that, RISE has provided strategic support and some of that network that introduced the practice of on-track conferences, for example, that Buckley and other schools have taken to a new level. So this slide, I think, highlights, and you can also go to the next one, this slide and the next highlight improvements and areas for continued pushing, right? Again, I did highlight Buckley earlier, and we are thrilled to see not just the attendance gains, but the substantial on-track improvements demonstrated there. And the improvements, not as substantial as Buckley, but the improvements at Weaver and Kinsella as well. Hartford Public, again, happy to speak to some of that without pointing fingers, right? This is not a blame game, and I'm not here specifically on their behalf, but that's a school where, I think we saw the increase in the district's promotion requirements, right? Removing transition to algebra as possibly fulfilling the math requirement. That had a bigger impact at Hartford High. And that's something that, in our coaching work with the school leadership team and 9th grade leadership, we've been really trying to dig into why that made such a bigger difference at Hartford High as it did in the other, in comparison to the other schools. Nonetheless, we do see overall growth all told. And I should note that this is actually a 4-year change that should be highlighted. However, year over year, Hartford High has seen improvements from a challenging year that we discussed in this setting and with many of you that they experienced in 23-24 vis-a-vis their on-track data. So I think we can go on. Again, happy to entertain any questions afterwards. This slide I'll be fairly brief on. It just looks at the really within this year data. On the right-hand side, we always try to provide that sort of state level view and say that, about 10% of the first-time ninth graders achieved the state's benchmark for on track, earning those 6 credits, but fell short of the district's benchmark for being on track because they did earn the 6+ credits that Indicator 7 states is the requirement for meeting that on track, that they did not pass their English 9 or their algebra in order to earn that those specific credits that the district requires. So we put that there just to name the important to sort of compare apples to apples, as it were, in that not all districts have that sort of promotional requirement across the state. We can keep going. We also, we're excited, and Liliana mentioned this, as I think Dr. Coburn also alluded to. This partnership, RISE's mission, as Liliana spoke to, is about post-secondary access and post-secondary success. It's not just ninth grade success for ninth grade's sake. We want to see students moving through high school with success. We want to see students leaving high school with a documented plan and having taken the key steps to sort of enable them to achieve the pathway that they identify. So we're thrilled to see 97% of the members of the class of 2025 across the comprehensive high schools that received RISE coaching and professional learning support having had a documented plan for graduation. Application completion was a real improvement around our largest post-secondary education pathway, which is the 2-year college. So 92% of comprehensive high school seniors who intended to, indicated at the start of the year, their plan was to go to a 2-year college, 92% actually completed an application for a 2-year college, which was a double-digit growth from the prior year. And we all know about the challenges around FAFSA for a whole host of reasons. And there are, some schools that experience drops. We also saw big growth in some pockets. So one of the things we're really looking into with Liliana and the team across the schools is how can we, really spread some of the successful practices that did lead to gains in FAFSA in pockets and hopefully extend those across the system. So I think that we have one more slide, if I'm not mistaken. So I want to just, quickly overview some of what actually is kind of involved in the work in this proposed contract. We are making some shifts with an eye to the fact that the comprehensive high schools have been at this for a while. We are looking to sort of expand to actually one of the conversations in the prior contract, looking to expand capacity beyond the administrator level. So these improvement huddles that we're going to facilitate at the schools will include not just administrators, but also ninth grade counselors and ninth grade teacher leaders to, on a regular basis, go through a continuous improvement process to reflect on their data, look at the big kind of aim statement for improvement that they establish for the year, and check in on those change ideas, those little tests of change that we're going to try to increase student voice, to increase belonging, to increase academic success, whatever they really select as their data-informed priority. And coupled with that, we don't want to leave behind our administrators and sort of just expand the capacity beyond them. We're going to actually redouble our efforts and create rounds of site visits for the comprehensive high school APs to visit one another in a facilitated fashion and engage in sort of problem of practice activities coupled with observations of each other's team meetings so that they can sort of provide feedback and scale best practices. This is something we've done in a couple of other contracts that we've had in other Connecticut districts that has been really well received as a way of really investing in those key roles. On the post-secondary side, again, we're going to work with the district at a strategic level and hopefully really keep that, keep the district leaders, school leaders in the driver's seat. So developing a post-secondary access counseling scope and sequence to help with alignment, so that schools are operating in similar ways. The professional learning for post-secondary access will also reflect that. Instead of school by school conversations, our team's going to work with the district to bring all the comprehensives together, and also give them the chance to move beyond just Hartford and actually meet with many others at our 2-day post-secondary symposium this fall. I'll also finally note that the data is included here, the grade 9 and post-secondary data through the Data Hub, which has been a highly appreciated tool. I can speak for it at more later point, and also expanding the access to post-secondary partner organizations to really help the district promote coherence. I may have gone on longer than desired. I apologize for that. I got pretty fired up speaking about this work. I've been at it with you all for a while, and would love to entertain any questions for me, or obviously following up on the district.
Great. So before we go to that, I do just want to kind of summarize it. Sam, I really appreciate that piece, the sort of operationalizing piece, but just the contextual piece of putting it on to, what does CT Rise look like at the school level? And so one of the things that I want to lift up is that the work that CT Rise is doing in their data hub that they have, they are pulling real-time data on each kid on an individual level. And so at any given time, a school can have information on attendance, future plans, grades, pathways that the student might be interested in, and really trying to pull in community partners to make sure that, for our 9th grade students, we're engaging them, right? So we know that for some of our students, showing up to school can be harder, especially for our students who don't have a clear pathway. So when we gather that input and insight, which is on the hub, it allows us then to create personalized plans for the students, and then also for the schools to be able to create some trends. And so many of the schools were able to pull in that data to do some alignment with their pathway, but then to also think about how they're using advisory, to also think about the context in which they're engaging students in conversations about their future, which is why we did have that uptick with the graduating class of, I think it was, I don't want to misquote, 92% of seniors were able to speak to those post-secondary plans because of the work that had begun in 9th grade, really cultivating what they wanted to do. And so those huddles that Sam has talked about happen on a monthly basis, where the school is looking at data and making meaning of it. And so CT Rise is able to summarize that data to then help a school come up with a plan, maybe faster than they would be able to. So it's not just, attendance data, it's also different metrics. And Sam can speak to some of that information that is on the hub specifically. In addition to that, one of the pieces that makes the partnership with CT Rise important is because it allows for us to accelerate those gaps that we would have in 9th grade that otherwise we might not be able to. And so after the data is gathered on the student and the profile is set of the individual student and then the school-based piece, then a PD plan is set where the counselor is able to really work with a different cohort of students getting at that need. And so I just want to elevate that. In addition to that, and Sam probably can speak to that as well, being part of CT Rise allows us to be part of a network, right? And so there are over 30 districts who are part of this. So we're pulling in best practices to think about how they're engaging 9th grade students, because we know that when students enter 9th grade, we have a short amount of time before we hook them in. If we start off with sort of that heavy academic piece, and that's not where they want to be at, because maybe they have an idea that they want to be an entrepreneur. Maybe they have an idea that they want to go into the workforce immediately after. If we don't have a plan set up, we're going to lose kids. And so you'll see in the attendance data that we were able to increase it because based off of the student's plan, we were then able to say, okay, for this cohort of students at Buckley, this is what we're seeing, right? And so if we don't have something to respond to this need, this entrepreneurial desire that this cohort has, we're going to lose them. And so I think that that's something really unique, that the information is gathered and it's just not a one-time piece. Sam and his team respond to the student needs. They have student surveys. And one of the pieces that I'm really excited about this year as we think about sustainability, because now that we've gotten the schools more equipped with how to look at data, process it, and use it, we're thinking about sustainability. So we're thinking about the next layer of being about college and career readiness. And so that's the phase that we're going to go into. So I just wanted to name that piece.
Thank you, Dr. Coburn, and thank you, team. We'll turn it over to you now, Chair Hockenhull, for questions.
Thanks, Dr. Ratley. Mr. Wilson, or sorry, Mr. Tatum.
Hi, everybody. Can you hear me okay? Thank you. And thank you again for the presentation. My question is similar in spirit to Ms. Brody's question of the Ready CT contract about the district's capacity to do a lot of these practices and initiatives with the resources that we already have internally. And I know that I understand the value of having outside facilitators who can lead this process, and with no disrespect to the expertise that the folks at CT Rise, I'm sure, bring, and the value of their coaching. I just wonder whether these are things that we could prioritize internally. There's nothing too complicated about data analysis processes, and even problem practice protocols with site visits, and a lot of these things strike me as things that could be done more efficiently. I look at a $190,000 contract and think like that's like 1.5 assistant principals, that's 2 teachers, that's however you want to slice it, and really thinking critically about what we are getting from the partnership beyond what we could be doing in-house. I know there's not necessarily a question implied in there unless you'd like an opportunity to answer this question of beyond the facilitation of the processes and the particular data analysis tool. What justifies spending the close to $200,000 for the support?
I can answer, and then I can turn it over to Sam to speak to it. So it's a question that I raised as well, and Sam and I had a conversation about, making sure that this is value added. One of the things that we were able to gauge from it is best practices from the other districts and being part of sort of innovative practices that we wouldn't be able to. So there are other districts who are also part of this work, leaning into it, thinking about how do we respond to 9th grade. And I think the other piece is sort of that real-time response. And so as we are grappling with how do we engage students, knowing that AI is part of their world, we're thinking about it, but there are 30 other districts who are also thinking about it. And some of them are further ahead where we can just steal those practices. We don't have to reinvent the wheel. I think for sustainability, we are thinking about in years to come what that would look like. And ultimately, when we think about where we were with the data, you're absolutely right. So our team is able to process the data in a way that they weren't able to before, which is why this year we're saying, okay, we've done that. Let's also go ahead and build capacity. So now we're leaning into college and career readiness skills, really thinking about what do our students need to be equipped with over the next 3 to 5 years. And we're stealing those practices from the other districts. And we'll be leaning more into the network professional development, where our teachers, counselors, and administrators will be joined with those other districts.
I can just also add, if I may, that the lead team, or the team that's led by Ms. Cuevas, is also a part of those meetings, convenings, and so forth. And that really we're primed at this point to begin to make or continue to make that shift to push that talent back into the building rather than extracting that talent and managing from central office. And so with Ms. Cuevas and her team working alongside those schools, continuing to pull out those practices that both Sam and Dr. Coburn have mentioned, we are definitely at a point to make sure that we build that capacity with the teams that have been participating at the schools, and making sure that Ms. Cuevas and her team provide that direct support that we now get from the partner.
I think there was a, invitation for me to add, and I will just say, that this is like an area of question we're really sensitive to, and at all times, I think especially in this season, and especially frankly in this virtual space, knowing the battles you all have fought. I think the main thing I would just add is that it is, or to what's been said, is that it is that context is part of the reason why we redoubled our efforts to I think it was in Liliana's portion, she named that, we have gone out and raised money from philanthropic partners to keep costs, I say the word low as possible, within recognition it is not small. You named some of the comparisons in terms of, key roles, so that, 40% of the total cost of this, is borne by funders outside of the district. So we don't take that lightly. I think the other thing that I didn't get to speak to is the actual capacity, people power in the form of a 9th grade on-track coach. That is a person that is on the ground every day at Hartford Public High School. This contract funds a portion of that individual's salary and benefits, and that's someone whose on-track rates consistently exceed in her caseload the general population of Hartford High students, even though by intention she has a higher sort of risk caseload, you might say, based on 8th grade data. So that's one thing that didn't get named. But I think the main thing I wanted to underscore is really just essentially understanding your question, appreciating the comments from Dr. Coburn and Dr. Ratley, but also that we have made those efforts as much as we can to get out there and get additional funding in.
Thank you for those responses. Yeah, it is. I'm glad that you take it seriously. It is, hearing about a network where multiple districts are, investing in these partnerships strikes me as like a lot of public money that I'm sure there's some benefit, and I wonder if there's another way to leverage more public or pre-existing like opportunities for such partnerships and I think places like like CT Rise are responding to a real need in the system for people to make these connections and share these best practices. And in the educational ecosystem that we operate in, unfortunately, lots of districts are overburdened by all sorts of other things and often don't have the capacity to do that important work. And partly what I'm wrapping my head around is what would a shift look like to a system that doesn't rely on as much on these private providers and nonprofits that provide these services. Like, how could we do this more in the existing system and prioritize it as a system that wouldn't require as much of these kind of external investments? Just thinking about like the whole ecosystem of public education system and how it operates. And this is just one example of a broader pattern that I care about. So I'll leave it at that. And thank you for providing all of the relevant information and thoughts.
Thanks, Mr. Tatum. Ms. Aristelle Ledger.
Thank you so much. And thank you so much, Board Chair. And thank you, Sam, for your presentation, and Aria for, adding to it. One question and much respect to the individuals who are doing this work, because it's demonstrating that there is innovation in Hartford Public Schools and that we are doing what we can to reach, those students, those harder to reach students. One question that I have is, while I appreciate that the success with regards to the applications, more applications being completed with regards to post-secondary plans, what kind of follow-up has there been? Is there any tracking that's being done on these students who have graduated, and, those students who have filled out those applications, and those students who have decided and planned to go on to, certain workforce training programs. How are we tracking that? And if so, what's that looking like?
I can answer that. So, great question. Thank you. So, on a national level, there is a database that gathers all of that information that gives us clarity about post-secondary success of our students. And so we look at that, and Liliana and her team have done a really good job of making correlations to the students who have graduated from Hartford Public Schools, where they've gone and their success rate, really looking at retention and persistence. And so that persistence data is something that we're really, really invested in, right? Because it's one thing to say like they've applied to college, they've gotten in and maybe they start, but we're really interested in persistence. Did we set them up for success and making the right choices? And that is all part of the post-secondary work that we're going to be doing. But we do track it. It's a national clearinghouse is the data source that provides that information and gives us an overview of how our students are doing. I think Abby just put it in the chat as well.
Great. Thank you so much. Mr. Ledger, did that answer your question?
Almost. I'm sorry, I wasn't able to click on it. But so is this what you've sent us? Does this relate to the students, specifically Hartford Public School students, specific students who have gone through this, or who have, successfully enrolled in these programs? Or
so it would. Sorry.
I know that you mentioned that, this is like a national, database, if you will, but specifically to Hartford Public School students, have that data.
Yes, so it does break it down by Hartford Public School students, where you're able to track specifically the cohorts, the number of students, the school that they went to, and the different student profiles.
And what has the success rate been?
So I can't speak to the exact numbers. I can get that for you. But one of the things that we are seeing is an upward trend of our students as far as the students who have graduated. For example, we just celebrated our August graduation. And, and I know that we had some board members there. It was one of our biggest classes, right? And we are really attributing that to all of our students in ninth grade being really clear about their plans, being really clear about their post-secondary success. And so I know that we don't have the full data yet, but we're looking at some early indication. And as I said, for August graduation, it was the biggest summer graduation that we've had, really trying to support students with making sure that they complete their plan. And so we are seeing an upward trend in our graduation data as far as the post-secondary college and career. That's something that we'd have to lean into specifically to look at what those numbers are. And so.
Thank you so much. And I can appreciate that they have graduated. I just want to be able to say that what we're doing, what you all are doing, is really setting them up for success, because there is life after graduation, and we want them to continue to thrive, because learning doesn't stop once you graduate from high school.
Agreed.
Mr. Walker?
Thank you, Chair. I wanted to I'll congratulate the presentation, and Dr. Coburn. I appreciate your mentioning the benefits that teachers are getting, or instructors are getting, from the benchmarking and the collaboration with what other districts are doing. I would like to I guess a comment, like to hear school-based instructional staff really talk about this program. I would like to hear their perspective, because to me, I need to get smarter and to understand how they are seeing this data really impact what they're doing, and why this data is distinct from the insights they already have, and we've already gone through some of those questions by other board members. So I would really appreciate hearing these teachers, and I'm saying that as a charge if we move through the year, right? Because we get to this each time, and ideally by next year, I want to be smarter and to understand is CT Rise, making a big impact, or when is the appropriate time to sunset it because we have enough capacity in house not to need CT Rise, so that would be probably the request that I would have, because I think other questions I've had have been asked by my colleagues, and I would need to look at that data to have more to ask. But I would really like to get more data with the school-based staff and the impact. One last question, though, so you can just answer this. I went to August graduation, and I too noted that it was larger. I could not tell, though, if that was a good thing or a bad thing. You're indicating that it's a good thing. So maybe in this case, help me to connect a dot. Are we saying the larger numbers represent young people for whom they were able to get it done this year versus having to repeat a whole nother year of school? Help me understand that impact that I saw with the larger numbers this August.
Yeah, so that a lot of that had to do with re-engagement and making sure that we were supporting our students. There are a variety of different reasons why a student may need to take a step back. And some of that we heard in the graduation speech from the students, right? And so it is our goal to make sure that we are constantly re-engaging our students, which is why the work for CT Rise, getting them invested in ninth grade is so important. And so what you saw was just the effort of just keeping our students engaged and keeping them on track with their post-secondary plans. And many of that was to graduate.
And if I can add, Board Member Walker, we will
Yes.
tease that out so that we can look at it from a cohort perspective. It sounds like you are wanting to know specifically like around cohort, was that on-time graduation and those kinds of things. We can work with our accountability department to get that data to you all.
Thank you. Through the chair, if I can do a quick follow-up. Dr. Rattley, thank you for that. I was also hoping that it's, sometimes maybe you're catching the person who maybe would quit or drop out, and somehow this program has encouraged them to persist. And so whatever the impact is, I'd like to see it. It escaped my mind just that quickly. Okay, I'm gonna have to let it go now. That was a senior moment. Sorry.
We can come back to you, Mr. Walker. no
Thank you very
worries.
much.
Ms. Brody.
And Tyrone. I'm hoping not to have them senior moments no time soon as I'm approaching a milestone this year. But this is one of those times when how some of us who have kids in the school system, we get to experience like what we do here, then we get to experience it with our own students. So this is one of those moments because my child does attend one of the schools that was listed, and I did get the feel about the sense of urgency or importance around on time, being on track. I felt that throughout the year. So I'm gonna chuck that up to what we're saying here. Happens, it does happen, because there was some effort there with her in her ninth grade year. And I also just wanted to comment and say, at that graduation, and I didn't even know, because I was looking, saying she looked for me. I said, "Oh, that's you." So nice to see you. Sometime when we see each other on Zoom, we're like, "Oh, that was her in real life." But it was, if you were at that graduation, board member Fortune, board member Walker, and you got to feel like it was emotional even for me. I'm sorry, like watching the students it was just a different feel from any other graduation. You can tell it was a lot of supports that they had to get them. And another, some of our staff that are here was also there. That's on this Zoom. You can tell it was a lot of work, hard work, from the students, hard work from families, hard work from staff that went into that graduation. I attended a few graduations this season, but none felt like that at all. And I think it like showed this is all that we do together to get this student here, to the point of success. So I just wanted to comment and say what we do, I've experienced it personally, and I got to see others experience it during that summer graduation. It was really, really, it was real good. For those who were there, we all talked about it afterward, that we felt that a young man, he was crying and hugging everybody. It looked like mom, dad, grandpa, uncle, like he was hugging them all separate. He had tears coming down, and it helped you feel, me and Miss Hooker, like we was taking it in, because it helped us know that the supports, when we as a school district provide them, which I was seeing in real time, that is the result of it. And it was good to experience. So I couldn't let this moment go by and not acknowledge that, because it was just emotion in the room and it was heavy. So kudos to all those that took part in that, and our families that also supported their students through it.
Thanks, Ms. Brody. Mr. Walker?
Okay, it came back. So, and it perfectly dovetails off of what Board Member Brody just expressed. My question was around, like Sam presented to data and whatnot. I kind of want to tease out where the impact is coming from, because I know we fund ninth grade academy at some schools, and there's MTSS and other programs that are pushing in and pulling students out and pushing them forward. Even the CT Rise, we've mentioned just previously, has engaged and energized students on that journey. And so I guess I'm setting up to say, my question too is, can we begin to tease out that, increase engagement, but with the reductions of absenteeism and things like that? Can we get a better read as to what's contributing to it, right? The data here is useful, but is it the MTSS, Ninth Grade Academy? I would like to maybe get a better sense there too, because I kind of want to get smarter as to what's the critical thing for me to fund year over year, right? To keep this impact happening. That was the other thing I wanted to give as a charge, because I think, the impression I get from this particular thing is the data is being provided and it has usefulness, but to whom and how it's being used, that's what I would like to understand more too.
Mr. Walker, any other comments on that? Awesome. Okay, great. I don't see any other hands raised, so I think we'll move on to the language line.
And that we have Ms. Janelle Hooker on the call.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Janelle Hooker, and I am from the Office of Strategic Partnership and Fund Development. And tonight, I bring to you a contract renewal for Language Line. Next slide, please. Language Line is a tool that our district utilize as an opportunity to ensure that all of our parents and caregivers are able to have meaningful participation in their child's education. So the district for years have had a collaboration or contracting services with Language Line for over the phone interpretation services at all of our schools. Language Line is a service that is available 24/7, and it does give or provide interpretation over the phone for over 240 languages. Next slide, please. A little bit of background on Language Line is that during our school year of 2020, 2021, we all know what was happening at that point. The tool became a resource that was really necessary for our engagement with families. And we went from an original contract of $40,000 to $115,000. And throughout the years, our contracts have stayed at that amount and have increased due to the value of calls that we've had across our schools. So it's a tool that our families or staff have been able to utilize, not only for PPT calls, but also if they're looking for like uniform requests or any type of translation that is a need at the school level. Next slide, please. Last school year, when I came to bring when I started to look into Language Line, I did do some research around different organizations that provided a similar service, as I was trying to ensure that we were fiscally aware of where, the amount of money that we were using. I revisited the research that was conducted the previous school year, and we continue to be where Language Line continue to be the tool that would be fiscally responsible for us to continue to have at this time when we think about not only the price that we pay per minute, but also the amount of money that we would have to invest in revisiting the infrastructure and the training and things that we have in place at for the service. What I will do this coming school year, should we renew the contract, is we will incorporate surveys to not only the families that are accessing this resource or this tool, but we would also survey our staff so that we really have real-time data that allow us to look at feedback and success and or areas of growth with utilizing this particular tool. That would allow us to really have a full picture on not only the amount of money that it costs to implement it, but any areas that we may need to work with the vendor when it comes to maybe areas of improvement, as based on the report that the tool currently have where people can provide feedback. There is not much information for me to go off when it comes to the individual's experience utilizing the tool. Next slide, please. I was able to do a comparison between school year 23-24 and school year 24-25, where we continue to have Spanish language calls be the one that has the highest number of requests for translation, followed this school year, 24-25, followed by Portuguese, Swahili, and Haitian Creole. Last school year, it was Spanish, Portuguese, Swahili, and Karen. Karen moved this school year to number 5. But you can see that the volume of calls are consistent with demonstrating a need that our different schools have. Next slide, please. So Language Line provides interpretation in various languages, as I mentioned, over 240 languages. They are available 24/7 for our school personnel. We are really ensuring this school year that our FCSSPs support the office with ensuring, should we renew the contract, ensure that not only the front desk for our schools, but also Our security guards at the entry point have the information with the phone number and the access so that everybody is fresh in their memory of how to utilize the tool, what number they need to use to access. The calls do not need to be pre-scheduled, so they could be utilized right on the moment. And the calls are not recorded due to the sensitive information that is discussed at the time of those calls. Some of the other languages, based on the report that I review, that had a high number of utilization this past school year was Portuguese, Brazilian, Swahili, Karen, Haitian Creole, Haitian, Turkish, and then the number continues on and on. Next slide, please. And I wanted to wrap up our presentation with just sharing with you the top 5 languages that had the most requests and calls this past school year. And you can see the number of calls, and you can also see the amount of minutes that the calls had during the time that they were used at the schools. And that will conclude my presentation, and I'm open to any questions that you may have.
Thanks, Ms. Hooker. Ms. Brody.
Thank you for that. Not necessarily to this contract, but to how we do language access, or however we want to term it here. I've been engaged with parents who do not, English is not their first language. Some of them not even speaking English. Like we had the conversation through someone who was translating. And how we offer that at schools, I don't know if we do better at some schools than other, but they have been refused at times. In particular to this contract, I know we've talked about it in the past that if we could get someone in person, that is an option under this contract. And I have been told that parents have asked for that, and that has not been granted. I understand it could be limited based on the language, but the parents I was speaking to was Spanish speaking. So I know that we've discussed here in the past that it is more difficult for some of the other languages to get them in a certain amount of time, and the meeting is already scheduled. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about languages that, like Spanish, that the school, so I don't think it's a language line issue, but it's a school issue around providing that translation to families. And especially what was expressed to me from a few parents is they feel more comfortable, especially in a PPT, with someone there translating as opposed to on the phone. So I don't know if we have conversations with our administrators to say that every time I'm in a conversation in the community about language, this subject comes up. So I'm hoping that we can do better, or just talk to our administrators like, look, it has been some feedback from the community that there has been no, like, try to get someone to come in person, because families are saying they want someone there with them speaking their own language. And they try to schedule that in a timely fashion. So not saying this company would not provide it, but to say on our end, are we doing our due diligence with trying to secure that for families when possible? Thank you.
Thank you for bringing that up. We will make sure that as part of our PD, we reiterate the access that the service offer, as well as the in-person translation is something that would have to really be scheduled, just because if it's a conversation that needs to happen right now, we would have to be able to do the call, schedule someone to come out and be in person. However, with the FCSSPs, we are looking to ensure that this is part of that communication at each one of the schools to reiterate the service, the process, making sure the phone numbers and everything is available. So thank you for raising that, Board Member Brody.
Thank you.
Estrada Perez.
Thank you so much. Board Member Brody, similar experience. Parents have shared with me that it's been hard to get, to be able to access those services. So the more information we can get, that the better. I guess my question is, you mentioned a little bit about what does it look like that you are working towards implementing a process by which is available at the front desk and with security, those are the areas where I've heard the majority of the issues arise. Can you tell us a little bit more about what are the things that you're seeing? What it is that you are implementing? What is your hope from that implementation? And what do you hope to get out of, like, what is the process, right? Because the complaints are coming usually from when they have to call the front office, when they have to call security, when they have to get into the building. So I wonder what are you seeing? And what are some of the things that we're hoping that can shift that, and some of the implementation that you're hoping to take on to make sure that that's not there, in addition to making sure we have the potential to have in-person support as well.
Thank you for that question. So we have the information, and we have had the information at both the front desk of our buildings as well as where our security guard entrance is. I think with the change or shift in staffing and staff moving from building to building, maybe other new individuals, what I want to ensure is that for this new school year, and as we're all getting ready for back to school, is that at every single front desk, we have the information, their cards that's being delivered by our FCSSPs to ensure that they are stationed there, as well as our security guard, and explaining to them or reminding to them the process, the fact that it doesn't really need to get scheduled in the event that a parent comes in and there is a challenge in communication, to be able to have that as a resource for them to access, as it is a service that the district do have for all of our schools. So it's part of our upcoming PD with FCSSPs. The packets are being put together for them to be able to help ensure that we have it at each one of the schools. And what I'm looking to do is that not only I send it with the FCSSPs, but when we're doing site visits, which I do have site visits that we conduct to see how the work with the FCSSPs and CBOs are happening within the schools, I'm able to also verify that the information is there, is available, kind of just ensure that everybody has access and eyes on it and know how to utilize it. So that is the process that we have discussed as a team that we want to make sure that we have. And it's just really making sure that that information is reminded and people have access to it, so that we can minimize the number of experiences that our families are having that they're unable to access the service.
Thank you. Mrs. Estrada-Perez, did I answer your question?
It did. And if I can just add one more thing, I'm glad that you're also doing some surveys and figuring out what the customer experience is going to look like, because I think that's going to be the next part of the puzzle, to figure out aside from the access point of it, what the customer experience is from families as well. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
Mr. Stell-Ledger.
Thank you so much. And thank you for the presentation again. I know that the language line has been, a concern with regards to the amount of how long the response time with regards to, being on hold and having, services being rendered. Can you just speak a little bit about what the hold time, if you will, is for the different languages? Are there some hold times that are longer than others? For example, I know with Portuguese versus Swahili versus Spanish versus Haitian Creole versus Turkish.
Correct. Thank you for the question, and I'm glad that I have Mr. Matthews from the organization here with us. I do know that for languages like Spanish and Portuguese, the wait time is seconds to be able to get someone on the line to be able to provide the translation. I also know that due to the increase in Haitian and the Haitian population, that now has also become another area where they have increased the number of staffing working with the organization, so that when calls come in, the time that they have to wait to get that translation also narrowed down to seconds. But I would like to hand over this particular question to Mr. Matthews, just to ensure that I am not misrepresenting the time and how available individuals on the organization at the time of the call are.
No, you described it perfectly. So
Okay.
a couple of years ago, Haitian Creole was, you might wait 2 or 3 minutes to get an interpreter. And we've had like a 300% increase in Haitian Creole across the country. I checked stats today for all of our clients. Everyone is reaching Haitian Creole within about 20 seconds. I think you guys are even quicker. I think you're under 10 seconds right now for Haitian Creole. On average, all languages are about 15 seconds. So we do have some very rare languages that we might only get a couple of requests for. And when you call in, they may tell you. And honestly, I don't think your school has any of these languages right now that you're requesting. All of yours are some of our top languages. But out of the 250 languages that we do provide service for, there are some like Navajo where we might get a couple of requests for a day. So you might be unlucky and call at a time when somebody else is occupying that interpreter or those interpreters, and we'll tell you right then and there. If you can wait, we'll get one for you. If you can't, we'll schedule it for an hour from now, or we'll hold that interpreter for you. But to short answer, you're getting interpreters in under 15 seconds on average, and most languages under 5 seconds.
Thank you, Mr. Matthews.
Thank you. And one more question that I have is with regards to the delivery of the interpretation. Is there like a component of cultural competency that is part of your handbook, if you will, for Language Line? Because integrity and compassion and empathy, depending on what the circumstances may be, is very critical. So can you speak a little bit to that?
Yeah, absolutely. That is a great question. So we emphasize all of that. And one thing that makes us unique is we only hire interpreters that are that are from that country. So you won't get somebody who just took the college course in French, and even the ones that might have a master's in it. So every single one of our interpreters are called culturally aware. And that plays a big part, because sometimes you might say something that might be offensive to somebody. And if you weren't from there, you would not know this. You might know the language inside and out, but you would not know that. So that's something else that we talk about in our free training to you. And the customer service aspect and the empathy is something that we stress for all of our interpreters. And we have a program where if the interpreter isn't perfect, you can go online. It's called Voice of a Customer. Let us know. We don't keep interpreters who aren't checking all the boxes. So if you were to complain about an interpreter and we had 2 other complaints, they're gone. It's like 3-strike rule. And if you hadn't had a complaint about an interpreter, we'd pull them off the phone. We'd go over the call with them. We'd get their input. We would provide you with a response. And then that interpreter would be put on notice. They would have more monitorings, and we make sure that they're of best quality.
I think if I may add, that was one of the areas from the research that was conducted between the 4 organization that was a little, that was kind of a highlight of this organization having that as an added value.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Seeing no other hands, thank you, Ms. Hooker, for your presentation, and thank you, Mr. Matthews, for answering questions. And we will move on to Power School, which I think is Ms. Richard. Hello.
Hi, good evening, everyone. So this is for all of you that said you wanted to start the budget process even sooner. So this is our first bite at that. So this is not a new contract, it's a contract amendment for the Power School contract that was already passed, specifically to include Allaview, which is a budgeting tool. So I have Ymir Soto Santa on the call, who's our amazing budget director, and also Corey Edmonds from Power School Allaview, just to help out with any questions. We can go to the next slide. This is just the overview. I'm going to hit on these points in the slides to come. But like I mentioned, it's a budget software that essentially enables us to do all parts of the budget process in one place. It plugs directly into Munis, which is our financial system, and would really help us move from having a bunch of different spreadsheets where we're doing a bunch of different calculations, which really leads to some inefficiencies, potential for error into one software. We'll talk about the goal alignment. It's directly aligned with the recommendation that Public Works made to look into a budget software, and some of our strategic plan goals around making our financial processes more efficient. And Jameer will talk to how we went through a collaborative evaluation process to decide that we wanted to do this and how we'll evaluate it moving forward. And you can see there it's $121,000. I put that in terms of the total budget because I promised I would not propose something that spends money if it doesn't save us more money. And I really think this is something that's going to save both time, but also help us find more reduction opportunities by having our financial data all in one place and easier to come up with scenarios and look at options. That's a summary. I'm going to hit a few of those points. These slides here are just, if you're a data nerd like me, just some of the visuals. And so part of this suite is it's actually helping you do the budget process. So all of the work happens in here. The data comes directly from our financial system. It can all be manipulated in this environment and then goes directly back into our financial system. And if you go to the next slide, just a couple more views. The details of this aren't important, but I did want to highlight one cool piece is it lets you do scenarios. So if you think back to those conversations we were having in the winter about what if we changed this way that we allocate this, or what if we did this position at this ratio, it would enable us to do that with a click of a button, and we can see what's the financial impact of that. What does that look like for each school? And so I think that will make that part of the process where we're considering different options and understanding the impact of them much more streamlined. It also then allows you to just monitor. Yeah, sorry, Christina. It allows you to just monitor during the year as well to see how you're actually tracking relative to what you budgeted, which has been another big area of focus for us. Okay, thank you. So this is just a little from to. So overall, big picture, we're trying to move from inefficiencies and having the potential for error to being more efficient and accurate. I'll say I think we had 5 different spreadsheets we used this year. The team did a heroic job putting together the budget, but there was a lot of different places, a lot of places where things could get lost. And it just took more time, honestly. And so this is a software that allows us to do it all of the steps in the process for all the users, so principals, department leads, budget team, all in one place. It also generates the budget book, and honestly, that alone would be worth it. I, at many points, hoped that we could get you all data sooner, and there was just a lot of manual work, a lot of manual checking to make sure all of that was correct for you, and if we changed one thing, it took a lot of time to correct it. So this would automatically generate the budget book from all of that data that is in one place. And then again, that data that gets generated goes directly back into Munis. So again, that's our financial system. We have to load it all in there for the next year, and it would come directly from this software. And I want to, oh yeah. And then this is the goal alignment. So 2 parts here. One is around Public Works. So I know we've talked through some of the recommendations they had for us. They actually had a specific recommendation was to determine the needs for budget software and choose the right software for all different stakeholders. And Yamir is going to talk a bit about how we had different people evaluate this tool. They also had a recommendation around budget monitoring. So again, that's a piece of it. It builds the budget, you can test scenarios, and then when you have the budget, you can monitor how your spend is relative to what you are planning. On the strategic plan front, we have that overall objective, or I don't know what they're called, focus area maybe, of operational and management excellence. And you see the bullets there. I think some of those are the objectives where it's about managing resources more strategically, equitably, transparently, improving our resource utilization and efficiency, and in general, using data to improve all aspects of what we do. And budgeting specifically is included in that. I'd also call out staffing because this is how we would do our staffing allocations. So it really does meet that strategic plan area related to operational effectiveness. And what's really cool about it is that you can actually tag each investment, so each line you put in there for the budget, to a specific strategy. So we could say this role at school site, say a reading interventionist, is directly tied to our literacy strategy. And then when we look at the budget in the whole, we can say X number of dollars are tagged to this particular strategy, which would help us with some of the academic ROI that we want to get to say these are the dollars aligned to our strategies, and here's how we're spending relative to that. So a few different ways in which they meet both Public Works recommendations, but also strategic plan objectives, both for the finance piece, but also in general, allowing us to understand how our dollars tie to strategy. And then I'm going to turn it over to Ymir in just a minute to talk through kind of some of the historical context and the process we went through. I will say we budgeted for this, but I was very clear that we were not going to do it unless the team thought it would actually be better than what we are doing now. So Ymir can speak to it, but we had the finance leadership team, budget advisors. We spoke with the schools team about it to make sure it's actually something we thought would meaningfully improve our practice and lead to some ROI. So Ymir, I'll turn it over to you, just given I have not been here and Ymir has for much longer than me, just some historical context and how she thinks this could help.
Good evening, everyone. So this year we are taking a strategic and thoughtful approach to evaluating the implementation of the new ILOView tool. Having experience with ILOView in prior years, I will say from the new tool, it looks very promising. It will address some gaps that the previous tool had. Even my team, the budget advisors, they received the demo as well, and they were very impressed with the tool. And like Kaylin said, it'll pretty much help with not having to manage many spreadsheets all over the place, and it will eliminate any errors, potential errors. We'll evaluate it this year by doing surveys through principals, department leads, and budget teams, how it is working. And pretty much we'll track how many of our budget milestones will be accomplished on time.
Thanks, Ymir. Yeah, so that's part of how we'll evaluate how it's going this year, and then we will know if it's something we want to continue. And I think the last slide is just the summary of those pieces. So I know Christina did a time check. So I'll pause there. Those were the main points and open it up to any questions you have.
Thanks, Caitlin, and thanks, Ymir. Mr. Tate?
Thank you. And thanks for this information. It sounds like a good direction. Maybe one thing for the regular meeting, if this information could be presented to us before a vote, if there are any other like quotes for similar products from other things, just so that we could have a sort of informed view of cost comparisons for
Yes,
similar services.
we can definitely do that. And what I'll say is, because that's some of what we looked at, what is good about ILOView is its direct integration into Munis. And so I also spoke with some other districts who use this tool, and some pretty large urban systems like Nashville uses it, Indianapolis, just to talk about their experience as well. So I can give you kind of what the other options are and kind of why we think this one is better.
Thanks.
Hands. I just have a super quick question on training and implementation. Is that included in this price? Is that, do you think you'll be able to get it up and running for this year to get it set up? Do you think it'll take a while?
Corey, do you want to speak to that potentially, and then I can jump in?
Sure. Yeah. Good evening, everybody. Yes, that is included, and we are intending to use it for the upcoming budget year. So we will, we'll be ready.
Thank you.
And another thing to mention is that since having worked with ILOView before, they have our data, and it'll be much easier to implement for the next year.
Thank you. As a budget nerd, I am very excited for this for everyone, no matter if you're a $5 million budget or a $500 million budget. I know the struggles, so I'm really glad that you guys have this, and I think it will make a huge difference for next year. So great work. Thank you for doing that. Seeing no other questions, we have some updates. I don't have updates, but other people have updates.
Throwing that back to Ms. Janelle Hooker.
Ms. Hooker, thank you.
Yes, so I am back. I did mention last month when I brought over to us to have the conversation around community schools that I would come back for community schools for Weaver High School specifically. Unfortunately, I'm not back with a contract per se, but I am back and giving you an update on where we are in the process of identifying a lead organization to provide services at Weaver High School. Next slide, please. So just a quick overview, as we know, we do consider all of our schools a community schools. We do utilize a level set approach. Weaver High School happens to fall within our level 4, meaning that they get every single service or support that you see in level 1, 2, 3, plus integrated student support, physical and mental health and wellness clinic. Next slide. So due to that approach, we did decide to ensure that identifying an organization to support Weaver due to what occurred to the previous organization and due to our financial constraints, meaning that any organization that gets identified and we bring into Weaver will be utilizing or going through a braided approach between some North Hartford Ascend Pipeline federal grant funding, as well as Nellie Mae Foundation grant funding for a total amount of $277,840 for the school year, is really what we're looking at. Next slide. We did go a request for proposal process, which we went through the city of Hartford. Our RFP was released on June 30th. We did have a pre-proposal conference to allow for organizations that were interested in coming in to get questions answered around what we were looking for as a district on July 15th. We did have a total of 11 organizations attending this pre-proposal conference. Proposals were due on July 29th at 2 p.m. to the Office of Procurement of the city. We did put together an evaluation committee to assist with the process of reviewing the proposal and ensuring that we have a competitive process and an objective approach on identifying the organization that will come in to support services at the school. Which out of the committee, we do have a total of 6 members representing someone from the data and accountability to ensure that data tracking is something that the proposals have in place. We do have parents on the committee to ensure that we have the lens of our parents as their students are the ones that will be receiving the services at Weaver High School. We have our community schools manager as part of that committee. We do have a public ally as part of someone from the community to also give a lens, risk management to ensure that there is all of the things in mind as we identify the organization, and someone from North Hartford Ascend Pipeline to be able to kind of look at how the budget will be utilized as we identify an organization. One additional piece that we will be adding as part of the evaluation process is the top 3 organizations that, based on the committee score, kind of get elevated. We will also add an interview process where the principal for Weaver High School will have an opportunity to have them present their proposals based on a scenario of things that could occur at the school, to be able to have that as an additional approach on how they would go about supporting the schools, the students, and the school needs. The evaluation period of the proposal started yesterday, August 5th, and we're hoping that our committee members are able to read through all of the proposals and be able to do the evaluation on August 11th. Next slide, please. We did receive a total of 8 organizations that submitted proposals. I did list them here for you to see. We have Catholic Charities, Center for Latino Progress, Lifetime Center, Ellie Patrick and Company, Urban League of Greater Hartford, the YWCA of Hartford Region, Hartford Communities That Care, and the Rise Up Group as the organizations that provided proposals. And the committee is currently reviewing those proposals. And I believe that's my last slide. Yes. So I'm hoping to be able to have an answer or an update for us at our next board meeting.
Thanks, Ms. Hooker. Ms. Brody?
Thank you. Thank you for that information. I know a lot of us are eager for Weaver to have community a support that they need. I'm a little bit nervous about it. And I'm gonna be honest, after seeing those that applied, I know what we know as a community, what Weaver High School needs. And I've been a part of many groups where we're using rubrics and we're figuring out, okay, they seem strong in this category, but we know the struggles Weaver High School gets. We know sometimes if we watch the news, we know some of the struggles of our community. A lot of those students are in our comprehensive high schools, and they're definitely at Weaver High School. So we know the kind of support. I'm hoping at the end of this, regardless of how someone may put together a presentation, that we're thoroughly digging into these organizations, knowing the work they do and knowing what they specialize in, and not that they're a well-known name, but that the work they do in Hartford with this population and these families, I hope we're really being real careful about that, because I know the principal is not allowed to be a part of. I don't know what I was thinking, like, why wouldn't the principal would be a part of the team that chooses? But that rule was made somewhere, right? But that is because I'm like, the principal is not going to be there. Okay, so we're relying on individuals who are talented in their respective fields, but this community needs a certain kind of support, and I'm hoping that we're looking into what organizations that applied and what they already have proven of what they do in our communities with this same population and with these same families. Because this isn't something like, oh, we could do that. Actually, you probably can't. Thank you for applying, but I'm hoping, I'm very nervous about it. I don't have a student that attends Weaver High School. I attended Weaver though, but I do have a student that is in that building. So I know all the things that happen in the building. I know the struggles of what the staff have to go to. We get the videos that are posted, even though they're not supposed to have their phones, but they be still sneaking them phones. So all that plays out. I see it. I know it. And that just makes me a little bit nervous, not in particular with Weaver High School, but all our comprehensive high schools that have those struggles. We know they need a certain kind of organization, but I'm hoping it's an organization that not only has a proven track record, but that has a proven track record for this kind of work, servicing even the families in our communities, not sometimes in supporting Weaver, but sometimes supporting them outside of school, those kind of things. So that's just my plea to what we need. It can't be anybody. And I know rubrics helps us move and evaluate and pick folks, but I'm hoping in that presentation part that we're really digging into, and even work outside of the presentation, work our research, just that's going deep. Because if you have family who you love and are you connected to, we know the support that these students and staff deserve. And I'm just hoping at the end of it, we have the right organization. And that's my spiel on Weaver High School.
Noted.
Thanks, Ms. Brody. Ms. Darcel Ledger.
Thank you so much. I just wanted to say that I echo and really ditto in a big way what Board Member Brody has shared. But I also want to say that whoever we decide to, to hire and award these contracts to, I'm hoping that there is a better level of, I don't want to say oversight, but just pretty much checking in and making sure that, these services are being provided and these are quality services and these students are getting what they need. Because as Board Member Brody, said, it's on paper, you can make it look a certain way and it can look, oh yeah, we can do this, we can do that. But at the end of the day, how are you handling those, how are you handling the trauma that is coming with some of these students, and making sure that we're not, mistaking behavior or trauma for boredom, or trauma for just, being mischievous, or trauma for hunger. Things like that. It's just important that we are, we have eyes on all of our students, if you will.
Thanks, Mr. Solider. Mrs. Estrada Perez?
Thank you, Board Chair. Yes, so I just wanted to echo what both the last two board members shared, but also if we can add, I think what I'm also hearing is not just area expertise on what they're like the content area expertise on that particular thing that that particular program they're going to be leading, but I also think it's about the capacity of the organization to be able to deliver the work well, because I also know that what ends up happening is that there is a desire to do this work, right? But even the organizations themselves that put in their RFP don't actually have always the capacity to be able to do it. So my hope is that part of that process of selection is that we are weighing not just how they're able to present their own individual research, but what is the capacity that they actually have to implement and implement well. And if we already have partnerships with them in a way that we can arrange that, is figuring out, are they working already with us? What does that look like? And have they had the capacity to do it with the existing programs? Or have they not? And I think that'll help us sort of determine. But I think subject matter expertise plus the capacity to actually be able to roll it out within the contractual amount that we have set up, right? Not with the intention of like we have to grow and ask for more money, but rather can we do what we promised to do with the amount allotted at this time, and do it well, and definitely oversight over that process. But definitely thinking through that, because I know that some of these members have multiple contracts with other in different places, not all of them, right, but some of them. And so we want to make sure that that's that we're taking into account that they can actually deliver what they say they can.
Mrs. Estrada Perez, Mr. Wilson?
Thank you, Chair. I think what everyone said is on point, but I would just like everyone to keep in mind as well that this is a collaborative effort. Whoever's awarded the contract will have to be in heavy collaboration with the school. The previous organization did not start off hitting the ground running. It was rocky at first, and it was over time through collaboration with staff and the school that they were able to get up to a level to service our kids the best way that they could. So I just want to point that out and have everyone keep that in mind. It's going to take a effort from everyone to make sure that whoever's assigned that contract or whoever wins the bid will ensure that it's successful for the long term.
Great, thanks, Mr. Wilson. All right, seeing no other hands raised, thank you, Ms. Hooker, for your presentation. We appreciate it, and we look forward to seeing you at the board meeting.
Thank you.
And with that, the last item on the agenda is executive session for personnel matter with Dr. Townsell. So we will end our streaming, but thank you for joining us tonight for our committee of the whole. And